Welcome to Astro Chat with Anne Sundell, Kimberly Williams, and Monika Anna. We are three professional astrologers living in three separate countries, coming together every new and full moon to share our 3 points of view on astrology. Whether you enjoy deep dives into the current transits or you are just beginning to learn about astrology for the first time, there is a place for you here. All that is required is an appreciation for astrology, along with a respect for the various traditions within it. So grab a mug of coffee, your favorite cup of tea, or any other beverage of your choice, and join us for a chat on the astrology of the next 2 weeks.
Hello and welcome to the new episode of Astro Chat podcast with me, Monika Anna, and my Astro friend, Anna Sandel. Kimberly Williams cannot be here with us for this recording. We are missing her, and we were just chatting that I think this is the first one that we actually are recording without Kimberly. So she is really missed, and hopefully she'll join us for the next podcast. So this episode will be about the upcoming full moon in Taurus and upcoming eclipse in Taurus, which is happening this Saturday on 28th of October at 21:24 if you're using the 24-hour clock in UK, or 9:24 p.m. if you don't, and 2 hours add to that, 2 hours for Finland and obviously for any other time zone. So as always with our moon, we will start with a Sabian symbol. And what is it for this upcoming full moon?
It's a bridge being built across a gorge. So I think it really speaks to this situation we have, to try to find solutions, to build a new bridge to end separation and aim for unity, really. So I think this is a really, really accurate Sabian symbol this time for 6 degrees of Taurus.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because as we will be talking about this eclipse, it's such a powerful and strong eclipse, and even if it was not an eclipse but just a full moon, still it would be quite an energetic full and fixed full moon. So to have such a beautiful symbol there, for me, and I'll probably explain that a little bit more when we go into the chart, but it just brings that light of hope that something can be changed, that we can build bridges over, this narrow gorge, over the, difficult waters, that we can actually reconcile despite the abyss that we might be looking at the moment. But yeah, this full moon, this eclipse in Taurus is quite a significant. So let's unpack that. So this time we have an eclipse in Taurus, 5 degrees and 9 minutes of Taurus, and that eclipse is at the north node of the moon. And all the eclipses come one in opposite signs, so they always come as a pair. We have always a pair of eclipses going from the same opposite sign. So for the last 2 years, we had Taurus and Scorpio. The north node of the moon was in Taurus. The south node of the moon was in Scorpio for the past 2 years. We've been dealing with those eclipses since November 2021, so quite some time, and actually quite significant time as well for all of us. And now they're they're already moving to Aries and Libra. So the nodes already shifted to the new signs. We already have nodes in Aries and Libra, and for the next 2 years we will be having eclipses in Aries and Libra. So this is the ending, this is the culmination, this is the closing of that. And if you wanted to have a look at the themes that came up for you around this eclipse, it would be really good to look at few things. One, it would be good to look at where the eclipses are falling into your own chart, so which house they're triggering, because that will give you an idea of area of life that's being triggered. Is it a home life and a career life? Is it more of a, yourself versus others? Which house is triggered by those by this pair will give you that flavor. also it's good to look at what happened 9 years ago, because that's when the eclipses were again happening in Taurus and Scorpio, but the nodes were reversed. So we had a north node in Scorpio and south node in Taurus. And that was around 2012, 2013, 2014, right? And then again, before that, 18 years ago, we're looking at, I'm hoping I'm getting the numbers right. Was it 2003, 4, and 5?
Yeah.
Right. So again, that was the time around this eclipse. And I like everything with astrology. The themes are cyclical. So if you were to look at 18 years ago, 9 years ago, and now, what themes were coming up for you and what is it that you're closing? Because this is the last one. This is the end of that 2-year cycle. You've either changed and transformed and learned something, or you have not been affected. So which one is it?
Yeah, and it's good to remember also, like in between eclipses, the nodes are all the time moving in those houses where the eclipses are making those marks, like when they occur. So you're having a process of a change in those houses of your chart. So you can look at the themes of those houses too, and when maybe the nodes have shifted to another house, and that might have been important times.
Thank you. That's such an important, actually, a reminder. I always forget to mention that. But it's true. Very often people think about eclipse as a point in time. So we have an eclipse on the 28th of October, this Saturday. And yes, it is point in time. But this happens because the full moon or the new moon happens close to the nodes of the moon, and the nodes of the moon are the one that have such a significant impact. So if your house is impacted, if you have any planets in a specific house, that's when something sensitive, is in your chart, and when those new nodes of the moon's going over it, they're triggering that. I was thinking about it actually today before we started recording, that how to explain the eclipse, because it's such a weird thing to explain. We're talking a lot about new moons and setting intentions, and the full moon having that kind of a gratitude and expression and things coming to fruition, and then you have eclipse that throws everything up on its head. And the last episode I was recording with Kimberly, I was referring to an eclipse as this big truck on a motorway, when you're driving on a motorway and you're driving in your lane and you can sense this energy, but you can't quite feel it. You can't quite tap into it. It's in your blind spot. You can't see it in the mirrors. You can't see it around you, but you can sense it. So that was one way that I came up. But one came up to me today was the idea of the sliding doors. If you've ever seen that movie, I think it's from the 90s or early 2000s with Gwyneth Paltrow. The idea when she was rushing for the train and the doors closed, and one episode of her life was taking her the route of, she jumped onto the train, got to the house, caught her boyfriend cheating, took her on completely different path in life. And then another one was the doors closed before her. She had to wait for another train. She missed that. And then the life that runs in parallel. And this is what I've been thinking a lot around the eclipses, because they shift our lives. Those are the crossroads that I'm saying, but maybe the crossroad is more of a mythological ancient term. Maybe I should start using the sliding door metaphor, because it is very much, this is the moment in time. It doesn't depend on your manifestation, doesn't depend on your ritual. This is where universe bring chaos, bring change, bring shifts, and put your life on a completely different path. And again, I know it sounds drastic, and it's not going to happen to every single person on this earth. But if you have sensitive points, if you have your angles in those signs, if you have your nodes of the moon or rulers of the nodes, or any other sensitive points, you might be more affected than others.
And I feel maybe that when the sun is doing the eclipse, it's more about concrete stuff. It's about those crossroads, and the moon eclipses is more about like reprocessing what has been happening during the sun eclipse. Like now, a week ago when we had the eclipse, and now we are moving towards trying to integrate the stuff that this new direction is taking us.
That's true. I mean, again, let's unpack the Scorpio and Taurus. Those two zodiac signs, those two energies, they speak a lot about, you know, our money, the values that we hold dear, the land, actual land, the food and resources that we have and shortages of those resources. And also, you know, Scorpio is very often linked to a secret, to taboo, but also to something poisonous, you know, not just poisonous thoughts or actions, you know, where in metaphorical sense, someone is poisonous to you, you know, someone is toxic. We love this terms recently, you know, toxic relationships. That's kind of more metaphorical. But Scorpio can actually be linked to an actual poisoning of the land, you know, poisoning of the waters. Over the last 2 years, actually in UK, there's a lot of discussion around the waters, both the rivers and the lakes in UK, and also the coastal waters being literally polluted by shit. That's so Scorpio. Scorpio is actually linked to that, to you know, clearing through that kind of way. So there's a lot of that came to, obviously that's been happening for a long time, but that came to a consciousness, to kind of wider awareness within the UK, that the companies that we pay loads of money to clean our water, they're literally just taking all the sewage and pump into our rivers and pump into our coastal waters, and most of the rivers at the moment are just not healthy, not clear for swimming. So those are the themes that coming up around Scorpio Taurus. And Anne, you've been talking earlier to me about the Saros cycle, that this one, this moon, this eclipse, or not the moon, but this eclipse is touching. And going back to your comment earlier, there were very specific examples of events in the world that link to those Taurian Scorpionic issues around resources and around power struggle and around poisoning, you know, minds and environment as well. Do you want to share?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the Saros cycles are so important, and we would need more research into them. How are they linked together with the eclipses, with the cycles? What's happening during specific moments in time? And this is cycle that belongs to this moon is number 146. So it's a cycle that's been due in 1943 in Germany, and we know what happened then when the Third Reich was rising, and the poisonous of minds, maybe we can say. And then we had it linked also to the economy of 1987, Black Monday, when there was a crisis in stock market, and we also have it many times linked with nature saying something to us, or doing like catastrophes in nature that we experience. Also here, when you talked about that water in UK, we had a quite different experience with water. Here it rained so much that it polluted the drinking water in some cities, so people can't use the drinking water because the water is too high. So it's too much iron which is collected to Mars in the water, and you can't drink it. So this kind of very interesting unexpected happened during this week too. So I mean, nature is saying something, and I guess it's also quite connected to Taurus moon.
Yeah, it is. So let me bring up the chart so we can quickly look at the chart. So here we have the chart of the actual eclipse. I put it for Birmingham, UK. But what's fascinating about this chart is, Anna, you pointed that earlier, there's 6 fixed planets. So we have Uranus, Jupiter, and Moon in Taurus, and we have Sun, Mercury, and Mars in Scorpio. That's a lot of fixed energy. That's a lot of energy of I will break through that wall even if I have to. That's the energy of I am going, there's no compromise there. I mean, when I'm looking at the chart, I'm looking for softness, I'm looking for compromise, I'm looking for that bridge over those difficult waters or that abyss. And I'm struggling to see the softness and um yeah, and a way out, because it goes very much, it's either me or you, it's either my resources versus your lies. It feels powerful, it feels stubborn. I think that's what I want to do, you know, between Scorpio and Taurus. This chart, this eclipse feels incredibly stubborn.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's hard to find a balance here. Even we have the nodes that are giving us a lesson of balancing. Still, like you pointed out, Venus is the ruler of the moon, and Venus is in a flexible sign in this chart in Virgo, but it's still not that very strong in the chart. So we have the Virgo, we have Pisces, Neptune, and Saturn to work with here, and it's not that easy to find a solution.
No. And also the nodes obviously already moved into Libra and Aries, as you mentioned, but they are squaring Pluto. So again, this polarity between my ego and others, my needs versus other needs, is squared by the planet of power and power struggle and transformation. And you know, if I can exercise the power over, I will. So there is a lot of raw raw power in this chart.
Yeah, and maybe also like with the Taurus, I connect also the feeling of collecting or keeping to what's mine. As with Scorpio, like I need the security. I want to keep this just because I want to have it for myself. And this is one of the dangers I see with these signs, that it's hard to look at the broader picture than just this security seeking, maybe sometimes in the wrong places.
Yeah.
And then we also have a very strong Jupiter at work here.
Yeah. I mean, I like what you're bringing about Taurus, because for me, Taurus, Scorpio energy, it can be very much Taurus. It's me, my house, my land, my resources, my money. And then Scorpio is the other, where you actually villainize the other. You know, you're the bad person, you're the bad person, the country, the religion, whatever it is, you are the taboo, you are the evil, you know, very scorpionic, you are the dark, the monster, the shadows. This is what the Scorpio energy is bringing. And again, Taurus Scorpio axis, it's one of those axes where show the shadow side, right? The Scorpio is like looking in the mirror and seeing our own shadow. What is it that I value and I protect, you know, as a Taurus? And what is it that I am thinking, you know, that is actually evil, bad, poisonous, toxic? But actually, if I were to look, you know, a bit closer, if I were to look under the hood, a little bit, you know, under the covers, I would find that all the traits that I consider, you know, to be other and bad, they are actually deep down within me, and they're unprocessed, and they are not integrated, and they're ultimately the monsters in my own wardrobe that I'm afraid to face. And I think it feels very much like that with Scorpio Taurus, is this conflict between those two powers, me versus the other, where I don't want to know. I'm so fixed on what's mine and what I want to protect and what land I want to protect. And you mentioned earlier Jupiter, obviously linked to religion and belief. You know, what religion or beliefs I want to protect. What is it, the worldview that I want to protect? But I need to do that to protect that, I need to villainize everyone else. I need to find an enemy. That's the word I was looking for. I need to find an enemy that will basically be that balancing act to me. You know, I am all good and all light and all, you know, all beauty. And then my enemy is everything that is opposing that. And I don't think that, you know, personally, I don't think that that's how the world works. I don't believe that that's how the astrology works. Astrology shows us everything that you're projecting, you know, that evil, that, you know, that toxic. That's something that you might have to look into the mirror and actually see, you know, have you repressed that? Is there a part of you that you're so afraid and so scared to engage with, that you're projecting onto others, whether it's, you know, people in your life, whether it's a different country, different nation, different religion, that you're projecting those things on. And I think that's why this upcoming eclipse feels quite volatile, because you have those strong energies there, and you have also the Pluto, which is the ultimate Plutonian kind of transformative energy. But this is not an easy energy. This is the energy that, you know, basically and I'm trying to be careful of the language that I'm using here. This is the energy that rips everything to create path for rebirth. And this is the kind of energy, like, you know, in Australian bushfire, when the fire just destroyed everything, but it also created new growth and new life. And it's, you know, you can't say that it was good that it happened, because of the amount of pain and loss to life and everything else. But something new, you know, there's new life that's growing out of that. And that's kind of how Pluto sometimes feels. There is a death and transformation, and sometimes quite literally death. I've seen that in a chart of clients, when there was an actual death of someone close to them that transformed their lives, where, you know, someone close to them passed away and they had that wake-up call to take up a hobby, to change their life, to change jobs, to travel, whatever it was. So Pluto is not an easy energy. Link to those nodes in Aries and Libra really kind of highlights the me versus other power imbalance, and how we liaise with power. And in those last degrees of Capricorn really speaks to the power of the structures that we put in place, you know, our governments, our power structures within the countries. You know, who do we give power to decide the balance between me as an individual versus us as a collective. And it does feel like this ending of the last 2 years of the eclipse season in Taurus brings that kind of explosive energy and surprising energy. I don't know, and what do you want to add? Because I feel like I'm going pretty dark. I know it's an eclipse, but
Oh, yeah. No, but I understand, and I mean that's the dark side of Scorpio. It can get very black and white with Scorpio. That's a fact. But still, I think with I hope for the Taurus moon, that's the nurturer, and with Jupiter moon, that's the great grand nurturer that really wants to heal and wants to help out and wants to find a more Venusian way of dealing with this energy. That's what we still can hope for when we have a strong Jupiter there. Jupiter make things grand, of course, and it can also make the moon's good vibes grand.
That's true. I knew I can count on a positive spin from
and
you.
a lot of patience and maybe a lot of trust right now in that things will be turning to the better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there is also that wisdom that, you know, you don't appreciate something until it's either taken away from you or poisoned. So, you know, no one's out there. Well, that's a overreaction, but there aren't people, you know, in the Western world with the access to clean water when they're, you know, taking a water out of the tap and say, oh my God, this is such a blessing. You know, you don't hear people very often saying that. in the Western world. And then, like, you know, what happened in Finland, there is a rain, there is a flood, and suddenly you can't actually access that clean water that you thought it was your right, you know, to that resource, very Taurian, because it's actually harmful and toxic to your own body. So I do think, you know, the last 2 years kind of brought a bit of awareness around, you know, the resources that we have, whether it's water, whether it's food, what are we putting in our bodies as well, and what's healthy for us, and what is, you know, that kind of scorpionic toxicity that we need to get rid of. So yeah,
And how can we
what
take care of our bodies with that Taurus moon? How can we
yeah
take care of our lives, rhythms and cycles, and what's important for us in our daily life? And
yeah
on how can we take care of nature better here? Even our problems might be small compared to others, but still, like, to appreciate those things that are our daily things.
yeah. So just to summarize, this is a fairly short episode, fairly short for us. But to summarize, you know, how do you work with this eclipse? What's your plans for the Saturday, if you want to share? And what would be your suggestion to people who would like to work with this, you know, intense, I know I'm using this word a lot, but there is a lot of intensity and pull in opposite direction within this eclipse. And I guess it's a full moon, so again, emotions will be running high. You know, we have the Pluto squaring the node, so emotions are already there. How do you handle that? What's your tip?
I think that it's good to take care of your physical body and think about how you treat your body and how you connect with nature around you and with your rhythm, your daily rhythm. Is that working for you? And how do you get like rest and enough space with that? Also to check the house, where is that moon in your chart? And when we are in between eclipses, I would always like expect the unexpected to happen, like that you can be more flexible with things, because Taurus moon doesn't like to be so much flexible, but that you are prepared to be more flexible and just try to embrace some patience and some calmness in your life despite what's going on around.
Yeah, I think my tips are very similar. So firstly, you know, I again, I've been saying that on pretty much every eclipse episode. I don't encourage people to do any rituals around the new moon or full moon when the eclipse falls, because this is the time when you can hear the whispers of the universe. This is the time of the sliding doors, of those crossroads. So just pay attention. Instead of telling universe what you want or need, just listen to, you know, what the universe needs from you, where the universe, you know, needs you to maybe change the direction or the path. So this is a good time to, again, with Taurian energy, sit back, have a nice hot chocolate if the weather, you know, outside is getting colder, like here in UK, and maybe journal on the last 2 years. What changed since November 2021? What changed within that area of life, and how do you want to close that? What is it that you can just close the chapter, and for the nine years not think about it? I would also say with those eclipses, if there is an element of high blood pressure, of aggression, of energy running low, running high, I think, again, just going back what you say, going into the nature, to grounding yourself, you know, taking yourself away from a situation where there might be conflict, because it might be a situation where the conflict might escalate way too quick, way too much. And with Mercury in Scorpio, the words that can be exchanged, in not necessarily words, I mean, we have Mars in Scorpio, that can be very volatile, very piercing, very, the words that we can use, sometimes not just words, but actions can cut really deep, metaphorically and physically. So again, if that emotion's running high or its situation escalate, is it possible for you to step away, to, not to put yourself in that position, to just take a deep breath, go ground yourself, come back to the situation a few days later, and then have a different energy going into it?
Sounds good, especially with that Jupiter-Mars opposition.
Yeah. So hope you enjoyed our eclipse episode. We had fun. I'm really waiting with anticipation for this one. It's touching sensitive points in my own chart. I think, Anna, in yours as well. So I'm going to be glad to see the back of those two eclipses and moving on to the next one. But as always, if you like this channel, if you can like and subscribe, it really helps the channel grow. And we will see you in the next 2 weeks for the new moon episode. Bye for now.
Thank you for joining us in this week's Astro Chat. We hope that you enjoyed the discussion and would love to hear about anything that resonated with you. Keep the conversation going by posting shareable content on our Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube pages. You can also email us at astrochatpodcast@gmail.com. AstroChat is uploaded every 2 weeks on the Saturday before each new and full moon. Look for us on your favorite podcast platform as well as on YouTube. You can support AstroChat and receive exclusive content by donating on our Patreon page. We look forward to chatting with you all again at the next lunation of the moon.